Jim Morrison's grave here at the Pere Lachaise Cemetary in Paris. Well, someone who was far too young to have seen the Doors play live is Britt from Copenhagen. She was born the year after Jim Morrison died. Britt's been in Paris for the last month. It's her first time to the city, and she's been out here at Pere Lachaise every day. Britt, what have you felt by coming out here to Morrison's grave?
Well, the first time I came, you get this feeling about being close to Jim Morrison, and like you could never meet him, but you're close.
Do you think he's buried here?
Yeah, I think so.
You do think he's buried here?
Yeah.
Because that's a big question everyone brings to the gravesite.
Yeah, that's right.
How do you know? How do you think? Why do you think he is?
Well, I'm pretty sure he's dead, because I don't think he could keep quiet for 20 years.
You're 19, Britt.
Yeah.
Many other of your friends in Copenhagen into the Doors?
No. I don't know anybody who listens to the Doors, no.
Why is that, do you think?
Well, that's the music of the 60s, and the music of the 90s are a lot different.
How did you get into the Doors? Where did you first hear them?
I heard People Are Strange on the radio, and I went and bought the album, and I really liked it, so I just started buying more,
So it was just by hearing that one song on the radio?
Yeah.
And then you went out and bought everything?
Well, not at first, but in a couple of months, yeah.
So what have you got? What do you own? All the records, obviously. Do you collect posters and badges and everything else?
Sure, yeah. Books, everything.
To an extent where it's fanatical, where you spend like a lot of money on it?
Yeah, well.
What do your parents think?
Well, my dad, he used to listen to the Doors, and I guess they think I'm a little bit crazy, but, they don't mind.
They don't try to stop you from spending the money?
No.
What do your friends think?
I guess they think the same as my parents, really.
Kind of a bit strange?
Yeah, because for them it's only music.
Have you been born yet, and are you alive? With green death, I touched her thigh, and death smiled.
The Hitchhiker, from the album An American Prayer. In 1977, the three remaining Doors members decided to put music to the poetry sessions which Jim Morrison recorded on his 27th birthday, just 6 months before he died. The result was that album, An American Prayer. We're going to be hearing more of Morrison's poetry in just a moment. Drew is with me now, here at Morrison's grave in Pere Lachaise. Drew, you're from London. Is it your first time here?
No, it's third time.
Third time?
Yeah.
When was the last time you were out here?
About 3 years ago. Yeah. I came in about 1981, and I just like coming here. Right? I find it.
We've got the Swedish jugglers who are throwing their batons everywhere. 1981, so 10 years ago.
Yeah, I've always been into Jim Morrison's music and lyrics and that. I got it off my father, and ever since I can remember, there's always been the Doors playing in the home and everything. And I've just grown up on Jim Morrison.
Why is he important for you?
Because his lyrics and his poetry just say so much. Whenever I put any Doors music on or anything like that, it just totally takes me in, and I'm just really entranced by it. It just does something for me.
What are some of those things that Jim Morrison was saying through his lyrics and the music of the Doors?
All about trying to experience everything at least once, fast living, drinks and drugs and whatever, all to do with hedonism.
Have you lived pretty much by his example?
I wish I could, but I've tried, yeah. I've tried. I've had a fantastic life so far.
What about his drug taking? What sort of feelings do you have about that?
Well, I feel a bit sorry for Jim, really, because for him to totally excel and totally enjoy himself, he had to resort to drinks and drugs. I mean, I can have a fantastic time and really enjoy myself without either, really. I mean, the drink helps, but as for the drugs, I don't think I'll follow Jim's example that far.
Well, as you said, you're going to be 27 soon. That's exactly the age he was when he died.
Yes, that's right. I hadn't realised that. I'm here at his graveside, and I'm 27 in about a week's time. So Perhaps I shouldn't have come.
And the Doors music for you, 20 years after it was created, do you still get good feelings from it? Does it still do much for you?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I've been listening to it now for, 18, 20 years, and it's timeless.
Drew, happy birthday and thanks for your time.
Oh, thank you very much.
Well, John Densmore, the drummer from the Doors, is standing by online again from Los Angeles. The alcohol here at Pere Lachaise is still flowing. People are following Jim's example, no doubt. John, perhaps you're the best person to answer this question. Why did Jim Morrison drink?
Well, that's a big question. I mean, I think he had some sort of demons that were driving him when he was born. Apparently he was a very precocious kid and real smart. You know, he was got through UCLA in 2.5 years. Oh, he also was a military kid who was moved around a lot, so he probably didn't get to establish friendships so much. And fame and fortune, and then he got into substance abuse, and I think all that stuff together did him in.
Do you think Jim the whole way was totally aware of what was happening to him?
Towards the end there, he was asked if he had to do it over, would he do it any differently? Jim said he would be quieter if he did it over, kind of a Zen artist working in his garden. So when he said that, I think he knew that he'd kind of passed the point of no return, that he couldn't get back, that he had a disease, alcoholism.
John, thanks for your time today. Okay, a rare treat. Let's now hear a poem which Jim Morrison recorded on his 27th birthday.
Well, I'll tell you a story of whiskey and mystics and men, da-da-da, and about the believers and how the whole thing began, da-da-da. First there were women and children obeying the moon, da-da-da. Then daylight brought wisdom and fever and sickness too soon, da-da-da. You can try to remind me instead of the other, you can, da-da-da. You can help to ensure that we all insecure our command, da-da-da. If you don't give a listen, I won't try to tell your new hand, da-da-da. This is it, can't you see that we all have our ends in the band, da-da-da, da-da-da, da-da-da. And if all of the teachers and preachers of wealth were arraigned, da-da-da, we could see quite a future for me in the literal sense, da-da-da. And if all of the people could claim to inspect such regret, da-da-da, well, we'd have no forgiveness, forgetfulness, faithful remorse, da-da-da. So I tell you, I tell you, I tell you, we must send away. We must try to find a new answer instead of a way. Da-da-da.
The Changeling from the Doors album, LA Woman. Well, the lyrics of the Doors songs are the main attraction for many fans. While the Doors were releasing music, Morrison also released a book of poetry called The Lords and the New Creatures. Here's what Morrison and the rest of the Doors had to say about the band's lyrics in a radio interview from 1969.
How about in lyrics? What's the difference between a rock lyric and a poem?
Well, there's really no difference, Jim's book is the same as Jim's lyrics, I can read a page, and I've heard him sing pretty much the same things. For him, I don't think it's any difference at all. This is written poetry, and what he does on stage is spoken poetry. And spoken poetry is very effective.
I think a lot of poetry is very close to music, except when you write a poem, often you have to be in a state of mind that music can put you in with its hypnotic quality that leaves you free to, just let the subconscious play itself out wherever it goes. I really admire poets who can get up with just with or without a microphone, just in front of a group of people and start reciting their poetry. I really admire that, but I find the music gives me a kind of security that makes it a lot easier to express myself, whereas it's, kind of hard just to read it dry.
Sure.
I wish I could. I'd like to work on that a little bit more.
Jim Morrison speaking in 1969 on American radio. Although lyrics were important to the band's success in the States, in Europe, fans had to contend with the obvious language barrier. It didn't mean they were any less successful there, and today fans still have to contend with the same problem. I have here now Sabina from Heidelberg in Germany. Sabina, why do you like the Doors' music?
I think it's mostly his voice, just his voice, but because I don't understand, most of the time I don't understand the lyrics, I don't translate them with a dictionary. So for me it's almost his voice.
So you try to translate the lyrics?
Yes, I can translate them, but it's too much work.
Right, it's too hard to do.
It's too hard.
So you just
I understand a lot, but not everything. And if I understand everything, I often think, what did he feel when he wrote this, when he said this?
So what have you picked up, the little that you have sort of translated?
About drugs, about love, and I've read his poems. Those were very good, but I like more the music.
So his voice is the main attraction for you?
Yes, and the feeling when you hear it, it's not common. No la 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 disco music.
What about coming out here and seeing his grave? Does that change the way that you see Jim Morrison?
No. For me, this is much more real. So it's more like sightseeing because it's so long since he's been dead, and I don't believe in life after death or like some other people. So I think it's just nothing here but the Stones.
Okay, Sabina. Well, thanks for your time today.
Come on, come on, come on, come on, now touch me, baby. Can't you see that?
When that song was originally written by Robbie Krieger, the guitarist from The Doors, it sang "Hit Me, Not Touch Me." Morrison made the change, saying there was no way he was going to sing those lyrics. You're listening to Triple J. I'm Richard Kingsmill, coming to you direct from the Pere Lachaise Cemetary in Paris. With me now, I have Sylvia Bellows from Florida. Sylvia, this isn't your first time here, is it?
We come every year to Paris, and one of our first stops is here to see Jimbo.
Yeah, why do you do that?
Actually, it's just out of respect, I guess. You know, you come to Paris and you just want to come and say hello to him, and just to let him know that he's still alive for us.
Why pay respect?
I guess for everything that he left behind, his poetry, his writing, his music, what he tried to say.
Happy days, didn't he?
You know, all the happy moments, and the poetry to me means a lot. Everything he said or tried to say.
You speak as if you actually got to see them play live and were...
Oh, yes. I saw them in Miami. Actually, one of the last concerts they played was in Miami. That's when he had the problem with the police where they said that he supposedly took his pants off, which I, of course, did not see, and I was there. But I think that was one of the last live concerts they ever performed.
Wow, so was that the only time you got to see the Doors?
That was the first and only time I got to see them, but he used to come to Miami a lot and roam around the streets, and you could just walk up to him and say hello, and he was a very friendly person.
Did you ever do that?
Oh, yes, in Coconut Grove and in Miami, he would just hang out by the park and just sit around and do his poetry.
So what memories do you have of that only time you got to see them play?
Actually, it was a very electrifying concert. It was, everything was Morrison was electrifying. He walked out on stage and you never knew really what he was going to do. He could sing or he could talk or he could just recite poetry. You never really knew. The background, the music in the background was always very tight. The three other musicians was just always excellent. But you never really knew exactly what Morrison was going to do. And that night, he mainly just talked to the audience and did a lot of poetry. So it was really very special.
Has it remained fairly vivid in your mind?
Oh, yes. And maybe that's the reason why my husband and I keep coming back to Paris and to see him. And every year I always say, Jimbo, I'll see you next year again.
Sylvia, stay with me. We'll chat some more soon. But why don't we now hear an excerpt of Jim Morrison on stage that night at that infamous Miami concert.
You're all a bunch of idiots! How long are you going to let them push you around? You love it. You're all a bunch of slaves. Bunch of slaves. What are you going to do about it? What are you going to do about it? What are you going to do about it? What are you going to do? Hey, I'm not talking about no revolution. I'm not talking about no demonstration. I'm not talking about getting out in the street. I'm talking about having some fun. I'm talking about dancing. I'm talking about love your neighbor till it hurts. I'm talking about grab your friend. I'm talking about love, 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 love. Hey, listen, I'm lonely. I need some love, you all. Ain't nobody gonna love my ass. Come on. I need you. There's so many of you out there. Nobody's gonna love me, sweetheart. Come on. Hey, there's a bunch of people way back there that I didn't even notice. Hey, how about 50 or 60 of you people come up here and love my ass? Come on. Yeah. I love you. Come on.
March the 1st, 1969, the Miami concert of The Doors, which resulted in Jim being arrested on stage. 18 months after that show, Morrison was found guilty of using profanity in public and indecent exposure. He was sentenced to 6 months jail and fined $500. He remained free, however, on a $50,000 bond, pending an appeal. Soon after that trial, the band began rehearsing material for what turned out to be their final album together, LA Woman. Well, today we've already spoken to John Densmore. Let's speak with another member of The Doors. That's keyboardist Ray Manzarek. He's also online from Los Angeles. Ray, this song, Riders on the Storm, that must have been one of the last songs that you recorded with Jim Morrison.
Riders on the Storm, yes, actually that is the last song that Jim Morrison ever sang on planet Earth, to the best of my knowledge. Certainly the last song with the Doors, and I don't think he did anything in Paris. That was the last song we recorded, and that was the last vocal that Jim did. After we put the basic tracks down, then Jim did the vocal parts, and that was his very last performance on the planet. And if you listen very closely, at the end, the last verse or so, you can hear Jim is doing a whisper voice. He's whispering along with himself as he's singing on one track. He's whispering on the other, and you hear this sort of haunted whisper voice, almost a ghost-like voice. In a way, perhaps the void calling Jim Morrison back to the source, back to where he came from.
Can you remember how Riders on the Storm was written?
Yes, actually, Jim came in with some lyrics. He had 3 or 4 sets of verses and chorus. And Jim and Robbie started fooling around with it. And for some reason or another, Robbie just sort of took off on an old cowboy song called Ghost Riders in the Sky. In a way, it was created very similar to the way Light My Fire was created, a set of lyrics, an idea, and then everybody goes to work on it and molds it into a Doors song.
Does it make you sad when you hear that song today?
Oh, I always think of that. Sure, of course, I do. It carries that personal memory for me of, my great friend Jim Morrison and the fact that he's now gone.
You're listening to Triple J, coming to you direct from the Pere Lachaise Cemetary in Paris, and specifically Jim Morrison's grave. Ray Manzarek is still online from LA. Ray, did Jim like living in Los Angeles?
Oh, yes, quite so. He was very American and definitely loved the city. He really hated to leave it when he finally left for Paris. He was looking forward to going to Paris, the European city of lights, and doing some poetry and some writing and just getting his head back together. But he was also a little sad about leaving L.A. Who knows, maybe he had a premonition. Maybe he knew that he would never see Los Angeles again, and he never did.
Ray Manzarek, thanks for your time. Well, there's always been a lot of speculation on where the Doors would have gone if Jim Morrison hadn't have died. A poetry album was already in the pipeline before he died, but in 1968, in this interview, Morrison reveals he also had a lot of ideas on where music could go in the future.
Rock is kind of dying out, and everyone is going back to the roots again. Some are going back into country, and some are going back into basic blues. I guess in 4 or 5 years, the new generation's music will be, it'll have a synthesis of those two elements and some third thing that'll be entire. Maybe it'll be, it might rely heavily on electronics, tapes. I can kind of envision maybe one person with a lot of machines, tapes, and electronic setups, singing or speaking and using machines.
Out here in the perimeter, there are no stars. Out here, we is stoned, immaculate.
Set me free, why don't you now? Set me free, set me free. Lift me higher and higher now. Lift me higher and higher now.
Music lover. Here to music power.
Out here in the perimeter, there are no stars. Out here, we is stoned, immaculate. There are no stars. Out here, we is stoned, immaculate.
Set me free, why don't you now? Set me free. Set me free.
Dance music lover. Here to music power. Here I power and the hour. Music like
Out here in the perimeter, there are no stars. Out here, we is stone.
The Dub Syndicate with their adaptation of a Morrison poem. Perhaps that's the type of music Morrison would have been singing to today if he was still alive. Sylvia Bellows from Miami is still with me at Morrison's grave in Pere Lachaise. Sylvia, do you remember hearing the news about Jim's death?
Yes, very much so, sure. It was, in a way, it was shocking, but in another way, it was something like, you know, it was like when Brian Jones of the Rolling Stone died. You said, oh my God, will I be able to live without having Jim Morrison around? And then you said, well, I guess we kind of expected it. You know, it was like, yeah, his time was coming to an end, and I think everybody knew it because he was burning himself out, and everybody knew it, and he knew it. He knew that he wasn't going to live to be too old. But you know, the first reaction was, oh my God, how can the world be ready to live without Morrison? No more Morrison, because there's no more poetry. No, I would have loved to see what Morrison would have been writing about now, in this time.
Have you spoken to anyone else who remembers him from seeing him?
No.
In the 60s?
No.
And you're unique. It's you.
Yeah, I was there.
She still carries on the rock years.
I think one of his best songs is The End. You know, this is the end, my friend, the end. I think it's just an extraordinary piece of poetry. Because that's really what he did. He wrote poetry. And then Ray Manzarek and the other guys just put it to music. But I think it was just unbelievable.
So you still listen to the Doors music?
Oh, yes, very much. Oh, yes. I like I said, I think The End is one of the best songs. Midnight Drive. I think all of them. It's just something that just, it makes you think. Because it's beautiful poetry.
Just finally, Sylvia, the visit here today then for you this year, what went through your mind as you saw the grave?
Well, the first thing that went through my mind was extreme relief that I could be here again for one more year. This is my 8th year coming to see him. And that I could come back and say hello to him. See, that's basically what I do. I just stand there and I say, hey, Jimbo, I'm back. I came to see you, and I'm coming back again next year. And thank you for all the great memories.
Sylvia, thanks for your time.
Thank you. Enjoy.
Well, I don't know about you, but at the moment I have a whole lot of things racing through my mind. One of them is the incredible power of death on the public's perception. A writer recently said that the best career move which Jim Morrison made was to die when he did. He got out before he totally destroyed all the good work of what came before. There's no denying the truth of that statement, no matter how callous or cold-hearted it appears. For instance, think about how differently we would perceive Mick Jagger or, say, Paul McCartney today if either of them had died in 1971. Death can create icons that become so powerful and so out of proportion to what the person actually achieved in their life. But it's not just death alone which has elevated Morrison so much 20 years later. Like Morrison, Jimi Hendrix, Janis Joplin and Brian Jones all died when they were 27. Sure, they're still remembered and praised, but not nearly to the degree Morrison is. Maybe it's this place, maybe this has a lot to do with inspiring and perpetuating the myth. Pere Lachaise is an incredible cemetery. It's beautiful to walk around, especially on a day as sunny as this. It also contains tombs and gravestones that are so elaborate and so ornate. And look at who's buried here. It's an incredible range of writers, painters, philosophers and entertainers. Morrison certainly is in very good company, and it's little wonder he supposedly asked Pam, just before his death, that if he should die, she should bury him here. Pere Lachaise doesn't need Morrison to draw the tourists. They'd come here anyway. Yet Morrison's grave, as plain as it is still the one which attracts the attention. It attracts a group of Parisians every day. They come here to drink and smoke and listen to Doors music. It attracts graffiti like you wouldn't believe. But what if Morrison was buried in a backlot in Ohio, say? Who would go there? And what effect would have that had on the myth of Morrison and the Doors? Pere Lachaise, along with Morrison's incredible charisma and good looks, his bad boy nature, his drug taking, and of course his talent as a lyricist, is the stuff that Hollywood is made of. And of course Hollywood itself has now contributed strongly to the Doors myth.
Bird of prey.
Well, I hope you've enjoyed Triple J's direct broadcast from Paris this Tuesday afternoon, or should I say Tuesday evening, as it now is back in Australia. Before I hand you over to HG and Roy in Wimbledon, I'd like to thank a few people. First of all, I'd like to thank the guards here at the cemetery for their cooperation today. I'd also like to thank the Triple J mobile unit here in Paris for their support. And most of all, I'd like to thank the tireless efforts of today's producer at the graveyard, Chris Norris. This is Richard Kingsmill, signing off from the Pere Lachaise Cemetery in Paris on this, the eve of the 20th anniversary of Jim Morrison's death. Coming up next on the Jays, HG and Roy, across the channel, and all the latest from Wimbledon.
Australia's Triple J FM.